Krishna, thank you very much. Yes, so we'll be reading from 11th Canto Bhagavatam, chapter 5, text number 32, especially in the run-up to Gaurapanim, which will be this Friday. This is a very special verse of the Bhagavatam, because in this verse we are being given the clue as to the Lord's descent in this age of Kali as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what we'll do is we'll read from this verse and purport, and then we will get into the discussion a bit more. So before we do that, I'll just say prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, so 11.5.32. This is a famous verse, so some of you hopefully will have heard of it before. Krishna Varnam Twista Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yagnai Sankirtana Prayer Yajanti Hi Sumedashaha. Krishna Varnam, repeating the syllables Krishna, Twista, with a luster, Akrishnam, not black, golden, Sa-anga, along with associates, Upa-anga, servitors, Astra, weapons, Parshadam, confidential companions, Yagnai, by sacrifice, Sankirtana, prayer, consisting chiefly of congregational chanting, Yajanti, they worship, he, certainly, Sumedashaha, intelligent persons. Translation, in the age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the names of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. Purport. The same verse is quoted by Krishnadas Kaviraj in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela, chapter 3, verse 52. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has given the following commentary on this verse. This text is from Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.32. Srila Jiva Goswami has explained this verse in his commentary on the Bhagavatam known as the Krama Sandarbha, wherein he says that Lord Krishna also appears with a golden complexion. That golden Lord Krishna is Lord Chaitanya, who is worshipped by intelligent men in this age. That is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by Gargamuni, who said that although the child Krishna was blackish, he also appeared in 3 other colors, red, white, and yellow. He exhibited his white and red complexions in the Satya and Treta ages respectively. He did not exhibit the remaining color, yellow gold, until he appeared as Lord Chaitanya, who is known as Gaura Hari. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that Krishna Varnam means Sri Krishna Chaitanya. Krishna Varnam and Krishna Chaitanya are equivalent. The name Krishna appears with both Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Krishna. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he always engages in describing Krishna and thus enjoying transcendental bliss by chanting and remembering his name and form. Lord Krishna himself appears as Lord Chaitanya to preach the highest gospel. Varnayati means utters or describes. Lord Chaitanya always chants the holy name of Krishna and describes it also. And because he is Krishna himself, whoever meets him will automatically chant the holy name of Krishna and later describe it to others. He injects one with transcendental Krishna consciousness, which merges the chanter in transcendental bliss. In all respects, therefore, he appears before everyone as Krishna, either by personality or by sound. Simply by seeing Lord Chaitanya, one at once remembers Lord Krishna. One may therefore accept him as Vishnu Tattva. In other words, Lord Chaitanya is Lord Krishna himself. Sango Pangastra Parshadam further indicates that Lord Chaitanya is Lord Krishna. His body is always decorated with ornaments of sandalwood and with sandalwood paste. By his super excellent beauty, he subdues all the people of the age. In other descents, the Lord sometimes used weapons to defeat the demoniac, but in this age, the Lord subdues them with his all-attractive figure as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Jiva Goswami explains that his beauty is his astra or weapon to subdue the demons. Because he is all attractive, it is to be understood that all the demigods lived with him as his companions. His acts were uncommon and his associates wonderful. When he propagated the Sankirtan movement, he attracted many great scholars and acharyas, especially in Bengal and Orissa. Lord Chaitanya is always accompanied by his best associates like Lord Nityananda, Advaita Gadadhar, and Srivas. Srila Jiva Goswami cites a verse from the Vedic literature that says that there is no necessity of performing sacrificial demonstrations or ceremonial functions. He comments that instead of engaging in such external, pompous exhibitions, all people, regardless of caste, color, or creed, can assemble together and chant Hare Krishna to worship Lord Chaitanya. Krishna Varnam Twista Krishnam indicates that prominence should be given to the name Krishna. Lord Chaitanya taught Krishna consciousness and chanted the name of Krishna. Therefore, to worship Lord Chaitanya, everyone should together chant the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. To propagate worship in churches, temples, or mosques is not possible because people have lost interest in that. But anywhere and everywhere people can chant Hare Krishna. Thus, worshipping Lord Chaitanya, they can perform the highest activity and fulfill their highest religious purpose of satisfying the Supreme Lord. Srila Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, a famous disciple of Lord Chaitanya, said, the principle of transcendental devotional service having been lost, Sri Krishna Chaitanya has appeared to deliver again the process of devotion. He is so kind that he is distributing love of Krishna. Everyone should be attracted more and more to his lotus feet as humming bees are attracted to a lotus flower. The incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also described in the Sri Vishnu Sahasranam, which appears in chapter 189 of the Dana Dharma Pava of Mahabharata. Srila Jiva Goswami has quoted this reference as follows: Suvarna Varno Hemango Varangas Chandanan Gat. In his early pastimes, he appears as a householder with a golden complexion. His limbs are beautiful and his body smeared with the pulp of sandalwood seems like molten gold. He is also quoted Sanyasa Rich Chamaha Shanto Nishta Shanti Parayanaha. In his later pastimes, he accepts the sannyas order and he is equipoised and peaceful. He is the highest abode of peace and devotion, but he silences the impersonalist non-devotees. A beautiful verse, and the purple is very rich in many different points. So we'll say Mangalacharyan, and then we should think of this class as a preparation for the mind and for the heart, for the upcoming and most auspicious descent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. Okay. So in our Krishna consciousness movement, we understand that we have this teaching, this culture, this lifestyle, this invitation to love of Krishna by the mercy of His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhuntale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pastyata Dishatarine. He's come to do what? He's come to deliver the Western world, which is also entrenched in this Nivishesha Shunyavad, this impersonalism. And one aspect of the impersonalism is that we do not properly understand and honor the personality of Godhead himself. This verse speaks of Chana avatar, Gupta avatar. What do I mean by that? Chana avatar, Gupta avatar means hidden incarnation. So even in this particular verse, Lord Chaitanya is not named directly as Sri Krishna Chaitanya, but it does say in the age of Kali, so Kali Yuga, intelligent persons, Sumedha Shaha, they will do what? They'll engage in the congregational chanting of the holy names of Krishna. Sankirtan. San, the prefix means together, all. Kirtan. There's two dimensions to this. One is everyone coming together. Second dimension is engaging everything in the kirtan, in the glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the Yuga Dharma. This is the Yuga Dharma, and this is the process of devotion that Krishna, in the form of Lord Chaitanya, has come to give. Everything has its Dharma. Everything has its Dharma. I was reflecting on this a lot over the last few years, and even I was reflecting on it today. Why do people suffer? Why is the world in such disarray? Because we do not understand the nature of something. You see, the first casualty, the first sign of danger is ignorance. And ignorance of what? Ignorance of the nature of something. If I do not understand the nature of something, I will not know how to deal with it properly. If I do not know how to deal with it properly, I will utilize it in the wrong way. If I utilize it in the wrong way, there will be some kind of negative impact or negative repercussion. It's just like a child with electricity. If the child does not understand how to use electricity, even let's give a better example, the child with fire, right? If it's a child, it does not have the maturity to be able to utilize fire safely. So there can be all kinds of negative consequences. So everything has its dharma, everything has its defining characteristics, everything has its defining nature. Srila Prabhupada was on the morning walk. It was cold, and as they were walking, there were these little pools of, like little clusters of frozen ice, where you have like little pools of water, but they've frozen because of the cold. And as Prabhupada would walk with his cane, he would just smash the surface of this ice, he'd break it. And he did this a few times, and the devotees eventually asked Prabhupada, why are you doing this? And he explained, he said, it is not the nature of the water to be solid. It is not the nature of the water, it's not the natural condition of the water to be solid, to be like ice. He said in a similar way, it is not the nature of the living entity, it's not the natural position of the living entity to be in Maya. So how do we come out of this? It is very interesting that the word is used here, Sumedasha, intelligent people. Why is it considered intelligent to be Krishna conscious? Why is it considered intelligent to be Krishna conscious? If you do anything and everything in this world, nothing material will give lasting satisfaction. Most of us on this planet do not really understand that point. And how do we know that we don't understand? We know that we don't understand by the symptoms. So as long as we see someone searching for happiness in the material world, that by itself indicates that we have not fully understood the conclusions of the Shastra. But what does it mean to be intelligent? An intelligent person is someone who's able to understand the conclusion. In any situation, the person who's able to understand the conclusion of everything, that person is actually the most intelligent. That's actually a sign of intelligence. I mean, think about that really carefully. Sometimes you're in a situation where, there's an issue and people are trying to figure out what to do. The person who's able to understand the correct thing to do, the correct conclusion, that person is the most intelligent. So the devotees, by definition, are the most intelligent. Why? Because they've understood the conclusion of every aspect of the material world, not just the material world on the planet Earth. Someone who engages in Krishna consciousness sincerely and seriously has understood the conclusion of all aspects of material life. They've understood the conclusion of all the wanderings of all the 8,400,000 species of life in the material universe, because they've engaged themselves in devotional service to Krishna. But there's another level. In previous ages, devotional service took on different forms. So there was one age where the devotee would meditate for literally hundreds of thousands of years on the Lord within the heart. In one yuga, they would perform huge fire sacrifices for the sake of self-realization. In another age, they would perform very elaborate, very opulent deity worship in order for self-realization. But in this age, what is being explained here is that we are meant to chant the holy names of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. And when we say holy names, we mean especially the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This 16-syllable Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the Yuga Dharma that has been given by God himself. And although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. That blackish complexion of Krishna symbolizes the supreme enjoyer. The golden complexion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is what? Radha Bhava Duty Suvalitam. Krishna has come in this age with both the mood and the luster or complexion of Srimati Radharani. What is her mood? Srila Prabhupada gave a class in Berry Place in London on Radhastami. And he referred to Mother Radharani, he referred to as Mother, Jagan Mata, the Mother of the universe. And in the class, Prabhupada says, Radharani, she recommends the devotee to Krishna. Krishna, here is your devotee. He is better than me. So the most exalted is actually the most humble. So the Lord has come, and in his most humble, powerful presentation, he's giving what? Krishna Prema Padayate. He's actually giving what no other incarnation has given before. It's very, very rare. Just like in the material world, what happens when something is rare? When it's very rare, the value of it goes up. You see, they talk about supply and demand. If there's very low demand, there's lots of supply because not many people want it, so there's plenty of it available. When there's low supply, very rare, the demand actually is meant to become very high if people are intelligent. Because we're not intelligent in Kali Yuga, we don't understand what we've been given. But what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give is not just love of Krishna, actually, although that is exalted, most exalted. It is love of Krishna in the wake of the devotees in Vrindavan. So he has come to give Vraja Prema. Not only has he come to give Vraja Prema, he has actually given Vraja Prema to each and every single individual in this ISKCON movement. Strange concept, but it's true. How do I verify or justify that statement? Narottam Das Thakur has given this wonderful prayer. Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtan. Golokera, Goloka Vrindavan, Premadana, the treasure of divine love. It has descended. Golokera Premadana Harinam Sankirtan. It has descended in a particular form according to Srila Narottam Das Thakur. And how has that love of Vrindavan descended in this age of Kali. It has descended as the congregational chanting of the holy names. Every time you pick up your bead bag and every time we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we are literally experiencing or literally in touch with Raj Prema. So seen from the transcendental perspective, the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is actually the love that the residents of Vrindavan have for Lord Sri Krishna. This is why this movement, this is why Srila Prabhupada is such an exalted personality. Because even within the category of love of Godhead, we know that there are different aspects. Vaikuntha, so Vaikuntha Prem, Dwaraka Prem, there's Ayodhya Prem, Mathura Prem, but this is Vraj Prem. So as we engage in this devotional service under the direction of Lord Chaitanya, under the direction of his associates, Srila Prabhupada, what we've been given is something that is so esoteric, so rare, so exalted that even Lakshmi Devi does not have this type of love for Krishna. Vraj Prema. Vraj Prema means that they're not even interested in Krishna for his position. There are pastimes where there's a pastime where Krishna was hiding from the gopis. So what did he do? He exhibited a form of Narayan. He disguised himself in the Narayan form. The gopis ran and they were looking for Krishna. And when they came to Lord Narayan, of course, they were very respectful, but they asked Lord Narayan, my dear Lord Narayan, have you seen Krishna anywhere? Did you see Krishna anywhere? So even in the presence of Lord Narayan, their heart, their mind, their being, their senses, their everything was only looking for one person, Krishna in Vrindavan. So what does that mean? Think of it this way. You have a gift that no one can afford. What do? There's two ways to operate this. If no one can afford the gift, one option is that no one gets the gift because it's just something that they do not have the currency to buy. That is one option. The other option is you have a gift that no one can afford, therefore you give the gift to everyone without discrimination. There are many esoteric secrets within our teachings, and one of them, which is so important, especially as we approach Lord Chaitanya's appearance day, but actually, especially as we try to approach the Lord in any way, one of the secrets of this Krishna mercy of Lord Chaitanya is that because he is what? Patita Pavana Hetu Tava Avatar, Mosa Patita Prabhu Napai Be'ara. In the deep and moving prayers of our acharyas, they explain, you are Patita Pavana, Lord Chaitanya. You've come to deliver the most fallen. Mosamo Patita Prabhu Napai Be'ara. Because I am the most fallen, there's no one more fallen than me, therefore my claim is first. This is a very, very deep point about teaching. And it's interesting because even in other religions, they talk about how the meek shall inherit the earth, things of that nature. What it means is those who consider themselves to be most fallen, they will be the ones who will be most raised up by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's a very incredible dichotomy that we can easily miss. But what does it mean in practice? It means that the more that we consider ourselves a humble dasanudas, gopi bhakti kamalayo, dasanudas, the more that we really at the heart, within our hearts, within our consciousness, within our activities, within our service, within our attitude, ultimately, the more that within the core of our heart, we see ourselves as the most fallen servant of the Lord's devotees, the more paradoxically that we'll be raised to the highest levels, highest stages of pure love of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. In other words, those who are last will be first, and seemingly those who think themselves to be first, they will be the last. It is all about humility. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya, he gave these 8 verses, Shikshashtakam. Shiksha, it means instruction. Astakam means 8. As in Astaka, Janmashtami. Astaka, Janma, Astakam, or Janma, Astami. This 8. So, we have these instructions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they are sutras. And within those different instructions, the 3rd verse, Trinada Pisanichana, Taroa Pisahisnana, Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and be ready and willing to give all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant. So Kirtaniya Sadahari, in such a state of mind, again, bear in mind, this is Lord Chaitanya's own instruction. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. In other words, to have the ability to really connect with the holy name, to really be on the journey of gaining taste for the holy name, there must be humility. And Lord Chaitanya himself, he demonstrates that humility through so many of his pastimes. There is a pastime where Lord Chaitanya is in the presence of the Mayavadi sannyasis. He's actually sitting where the sannyasis wash their feet. But in this purport, it is mentioned that his asta, his weapon, is his beauty. So all these Mayavadi sannyasis, they see him, they become attracted. In fact, Lord Chaitanya is requested to come from that place and be with them. Prabhupada explains in one purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that when Lord Chaitanya was requested like that, the personality who requested Lord Chaitanya, because he did that service to Lord Chaitanya, he gained a certain quality, certain sukriti or spiritual credit. And because he gained that spiritual credit, therefore, when Lord Chaitanya preached Krishna consciousness to him, he became able, receptive to understand what was being offered to him. And he became a devotee of the Lord. So this Krishna consciousness movement, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers, they have come to do what? They have come to give mercy. And this mood, Audarya, compassion, it permeates Lord Chaitanya's being, it permeates his dham, it permeates his mission. So we are followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the most merciful incarnation of Godhead. How do we know he's the most merciful? Because he has the mood of his greatest devotee. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nahi Anya. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than the combined form of Radharani and Krishna. Krishna with her mood. And because we are in that line, we also see this compassion expressed by Srila Prabhupada. There was one pastime towards the end of Prabhupada's presence on this earth planet. And one person came to see Prabhupada. At that time, they had actually put a murti of Prabhupada Prabhupada had allowed for a murti of himself to be produced, and it was there in one temple. I don't think it was there all over the movement at that time, but one of the temples. And there was one person, very learned person, who approached Prabhupada. Prabhupada at this time had so many health challenges, issues. And this person said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I should let you know that they're worshipping a murti of you. And he said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, when they worship this murti, what happens is by worshipping this murti, they will be able to burn off their karma, their sinful reactions. But when they're worshipping your murti, praying to your murti, touching the feet of your murti, they'll be burning off their karmic reactions, but you will be taking on those karmic reactions. And Prabhupada at this time was very sick, very ill, preparing to leave the world. So this devotee said, Prabhupada, please, are you sure you want to do this? You'll have to take on all of this suffering. And Prabhupada had tears in his eyes. He said, you do not understand, this is why I came. When that person heard Prabhupada speak like this, he realized that there was nothing else to be said. Prabhupada said to him, don't you understand? This is why I have come. So in the glorious and exalted mood of compassion of Lord Chaitanya, his associates also carried that mood, ready and willing to make sacrifices, ready and willing to suffer, literally suffer on behalf of humanity so that more and more living entities can be freed of this material world, which is only a place of suffering. Freed from what? Jama, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dusha, Dosha, Nudarshanam. This world is birth, old age, disease, death. So what does it mean to be intelligent? It means to be able to understand that why do I have to grow old? Why do I have to be diseased? Why do I have to experience death? Even birth. Why do I have to experience birth? If I was to trap you in a cabinet, which is just big enough for your body to fit in, and I were to trap you in that cabinet and lock you there for 9 months, while you're in the cabinet, there are different insects which are in the cabinet. They're stuck with you and they're hungry. So what are they doing? They're biting your body while you're trapped in that cabinet. And the cabinet is just big enough for you to be squeezed in there for 9 months. It would be a traumatic experience. So oftentimes, the living entities in this material world, we deny the truth of what our situation is. We can say, oh, it's not so bad. I've got computer games, I've got television, I've got cinema. But all the suffering that goes on in this material world, adhyatmika, adhidaivika, adhibodhika, suffering from the mind and body, other living entities, the natural situation, COVID, for example, all of these sufferings that we go on experiencing, because we're so traumatized in this world of suffering, we literally take our suffering to be normal. This Krishna consciousness movement is here to free us from all suffering and give us all enjoyment. Prabhupada said in one place, I was watching this in Memories of Prabhupada, he said, life is about enjoyment. Interesting statement, right? Because sometimes we hear and read that we're not the enjoyer. But actually, the greatest enjoyment comes by loving service. The greatest bliss, the greatest ecstasy comes by loving service. And how do we know? We know through the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he has come to give us Raj Prem. He and his associates have come to give us love of Krishna. He's come to give the most fallen, the highest treasure. It is literally unbelievable. Please think about this carefully. It is literally unbelievable that in Kali Yuga, the Kali Yuga rejects, the people who Manda Samanda Manda Bhagya, the people who have no intelligence, always disturbed, right? So mental disturbance, we know mental health is an issue more and more, always disturbed, limited duration of life, shortest duration of all the ages. Previous ages, they lived much longer. The most fallen individuals are the ones who are being given the highest opportunity. If we really understood what Lord Chaitanya and what Srila Prabhupada has given, we would take it so seriously, because this opportunity is the most rare. It's not normally like that. It's not normally that the most unqualified people are given the most precious treasure. It usually doesn't work that way. So now the only thing that we can do is twofold. One, be grateful for the gift. And that gratitude for the gift means deep, intense, sincere, and serious endeavor in Krishna consciousness, endeavor to practice it ourselves. And along with that, the mission is also to make other people fortunate. So Lord Chaitanya, he engaged with his associates in this congregational chanting of the holy names. He himself gave Krishna consciousness, distributed Krishna consciousness profusely throughout India. And then he predicted that there'll be one who will come. He's Senapati Bhakta, which means the commander-in-chief of Lord Chaitanya's own army, and that person will come and he will spread Krishna consciousness all over the entire world. Again, we are extremely, extremely fortunate. So as we approach Gaurapanim Day, as we approach this most auspicious time, it's interesting that even the day that Lord Chaitanya appeared, there was an eclipse. So when you look at Lord Chaitanya's chart, astrological chart, you can see he was born on an eclipse. And what would they do on the eclipse? On the eclipse, which is an inauspicious day materially, everyone, they bathe in the Ganga and they chant the holy names of Krishna. It's a very, very powerful symbolism. What it means is that in the darkest material times, literally the gateways to the spiritual, to the high spiritual realms is made available to everyone. And the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it is the key. Whenever you see in the material world darkness, whenever you see difficulties, whenever you see challenges, always remember that as dark as the night is, as dark as the night is, at that same point, the light of Lord Chaitanya's mercy will be shining in the most bright, blinding, and luminous way. And the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the key to access that mercy. The Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, the instructions of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the service and shelter of his eternal associates will give all perfection, even in the darkest times. I'll end on this point, then we'll open up for questions. I was having a wonderful conversation with His Holiness Chandramauli Maharaj a few days ago, and he was talking about the glories of Mayapur, which is Lord Chaitanya's birthplace. He said that other dhams, you have to work very hard to get the mercy of those other dhams. They make, over time in Kali Yuga, they can close in terms of their mercy. He said, but Mayapur, Lord Chaitanya's appearance place, is like a night lotus. So the darker it gets, the more that this lotus opens up. It becomes, so in other words, Lord Chaitanya's appearance place becomes even more merciful as the darkness of Kali Yuga progresses, as the darkness of Kali Yuga becomes increasingly dark, increasingly blackish, increasingly blinding. Lord Chaitanya's mercy becomes even more powerfully present. We're very fortunate to be part of this mission. We're very fortunate to be part of Lord Chaitanya's army. Now we can become even more fortunate as we profusely distribute this mercy and this gift outside to all the living entities, and within our own hearts. So please, as we approach Gaurapanim, please meditate on the gift that we've been given. Meditate on the great mercy that we've been shown, and remember how extremely rare and valuable this gift is. To the extent that we remember how rare and valuable the gift is, to that extent we will guard the gift, care for the gift, value the gift, and take full advantage of the gift as well. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Appearance day of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gaurapanim ki jai. Janita Gaurapremanandi Hari Hari Bol. So we'll stop now and have any questions.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this wonderful class. Thank you for explaining about the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and also explaining some of the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much. I see raised hands. Okay, Rishabh Das Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, do you hear me?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Obeisances.
Hare Krishna. Please obeisances. Prabhu, like, wow, thank you very much. You uplifted my consciousness so that I am aware what I'm doing. Maharaj told me to do Harinams, so I'm doing lots of Harinams. But please tell me how to distribute this mercy properly. You know, just going around and being the speaker and just chanting is something, but tell me, is like how to distribute this properly through Harinam. Any thoughts, any guidance?
So I remember I wrote to my spiritual master, what should our mood be when we are in Harinam? And he wrote back to me a very, very simple answer. Trinada We should understand that we're not going to actually deliver anyone. We should not think that we are delivering anyone. Everyone who's come to this Krishna consciousness movement has been delivered by the Lord himself. But what we're trying to do is to be an instrument in the hands, a compassionate instrument in the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. To the extent that I think I'm the doer, to that extent I block the flow of mercy. To the extent that I understand that I'm simply the servant, I'm simply the instrument, and pray. This is the magic of it. The magic happens according to surrender, which means that the magic happens according to dependence. In other words, what is it that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita? Yeyatamam prapadyante, tam sateva vijamyaham, mama vatmanivatate manusya pavasavashaha. He says, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Now, this is what gets really interesting though, because he doesn't just reward the person who surrenders. He rewards everyone that surrendered person comes into contact with, because when we surrender, his mercy flows through us and through to other people. So what we're trying to do in all areas of our devotional life is we're trying to be an instrument in the hands of the Lord. We're trying to be a transparent via medium. So we can pray like that before Harinam. We can pray like that before we give class. We can pray like that before we chant. We can pray like that at the beginning of every single day. Please use me as an instrument of your own compassion. Please do not allow me to interfere. And then in that mood, we can boldly, sincerely, and humbly render the service, knowing that the outcome, increasingly as we become pure instruments, the outcome will be the Lord's outcomes. What he wants, when he wants, how he wants, and whatever Krishna desires, whatever Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu desires, that is the perfection of any situation. Is that okay, Rishabha Prabhu?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Already tomorrow in implementation.
Thank you. I see, Raj, you have a question.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I was interested in you were saying that we have not yet acquired the intelligence and that is displayed by where we're at. We know what we're doing. We know that we're still fallen to some level, or varying levels depending on who we are. But I found it like it's quite challenging because we've heard these messages from so many elevated devotees in so many ways. We've read so many books, we've studied so much, and we've discussed it with other devotees, and we're trying to chant and we're trying to practice all of these types of devotional service, yet still somehow the penny's not dropping. So how do we get out of, we try so hard but the penny's still not dropping? So what is it that's stopping us from getting there, from realizing this?
So it's a good question. There's a few things to bear in mind. There's a few things to actually correct. First of all, it's not that, see, the devotee always thinks themselves to be fallen. You see, for example, we say that the disciple always considers themselves a fool before their spiritual master, but they don't act like a fool. So it's both an internal mood and an external behavior. We should be competent. We should do everything that we're doing. We should do it as well as possible. But we should always have a humble mentality. Why do we need a humble mentality? Because perfection depends upon the Lord's mercy. All of our practices are to position ourselves to experience and receive, actually. We're trying to receive the Lord's mercy. The other thing to bear in mind, saying the penny hasn't dropped yet, that's not quite true. It's just like when you take medicine, you may not feel that you're being cured, but that does not mean that the medicine is not having impact. So there's the effect and there's the awareness of the effect. So we may not be fully aware of how the chanting is purifying the heart, but that doesn't mean that the chanting is not purifying the heart. You see, for example, we may not be aware that actually, you may go into a situation where, for example, you have a disagreement with someone. And you may even leave that disagreement and feel a little bit disturbed or upset. But what we may not be aware is that if we weren't chanting, if we weren't hearing Krishna consciousness, if we weren't engaged in this service, instead of being a bit disturbed, we could have lashed out. You see? Because we don't know we don't have that point to make the comparison. So I may think, I may have been a bit upset with this person. I may have shouted at this person. But what we don't understand is if you hadn't been practicing Krishna consciousness, your response would have been much worse. You see? So it's often the case that this devotional service is always having effect, actually. It's always having an effect. It's always having an impact. But we're not so much aware of the impact because we don't know what we would have been like had we not done this practice. We don't know the challenges we would have faced had we not engaged in service to Krishna. So we should understand that our karma, our challenges, our lust, envy, anger, pride, greed, illusion, all of these things, whether we are conscious or not, are being minimized. So, for example, there's this pastime. So there was a king, and he was given the sword as a gift, and he was cleaning the sword. It's a very, very opulent sword with jewels, very sharp sword. He's cleaning the sword, and as the king is cleaning the sword that he's been given as a gift, he cuts his finger, and he's in pain. And so the king, he calls for his advisor, and he says to the advisor, my dear advisor, I was cleaning the sword and I've cut my finger and I'm in a lot of pain. What do you have to say about this? And the advisor says to him, my dear king, this is Krishna's mercy. And the king becomes so angry. What? What? I'm suffering. I'm in pain. I'm bleeding. I've asked you to help me to understand this, and you all you can say is, this is Krishna's mercy, you impudent advisor. The king calls the guards. Guards, throw this foolish advisor of mine, throw him in prison. The guards grab the advisor, throws the advisor in prison. Later on that day, the king is going for his daily tour of the kingdom. As part of the tour, he goes through the forest, and while he's in the forest, the king becomes captured by cannibals. Those cannibals, they see the king and they think, prasadam time. Okay? They capture the king and they start to prepare the king. The chief, the priest of the cannibals is going to do a ceremony to offer the king so that they can then eat the king. So the priest of the cannibals is starting to prepare the ceremony. And just as he's about to begin the ceremony, he says to them, stop, let him go. And everyone else, they're shocked. What do you mean, let him go? Why? And the priest says, we cannot use him in the offering because he's an incomplete specimen. Look at his hand. Part of his finger's missing. We will not be able to make an offering of him. So you have to let him go. So reluctantly, they let the king go. The king goes back to his palace, completely relieved. And then the king, he starts to realize, wow, my advisor was correct. When I cut my finger, he told me this is Krishna's mercy. He was correct. And the king, he tells the guards, bring my advisor out of prison. And when the advisor comes, the king, he apologized. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize the truth of what you were saying. When you told me this was Krishna's mercy, I had you thrown in prison. I'm sorry. But I was captured by these cannibals in the forest. They would have killed me. But because I'd cut my finger, I was an imperfect specimen, they let me go. So I see you were correct. It was Krishna's mercy. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry I doubted you. But I do have one question, the king said to his advisor. I have one question. He said, I understand now that it was Krishna's mercy upon me that I cut my finger. But when I mentioned it to you and you told me it was Krishna's mercy, I became angry with you. In fact, I was so angry I had you thrown into prison. So I understand how cutting my finger was Krishna's mercy on me. But I do not understand how me getting angry with you and throwing you in prison was Krishna's mercy upon you. So the advisor told the king, he said, my dear king, he said, normally when you go on your tour of the kingdom, he said, normally I accompany you. So what would have happened had I come with you is that they would have let you go and they would have killed me and offered me in sacrifice instead. So when you cut your finger, my dear king, that was Krishna's mercy upon you. And when you became angry with me and you had me thrown in prison, that was also Krishna's mercy upon me. So this is the vision of a devotee. This is how we should see everything. Seemingly good or bad, we should see it as Krishna's mercy upon us. And we should try to understand, how can I use this situation to grow, to become deeper, to become more focused and more fixed in my Krishna consciousness? If we take that view of gratitude, we literally become transcendental, because in every situation, good situation, bad situation, we can turn to Krishna and say, thank you, Krishna. Thank you for the challenge. Even thank you for the seemingly good situation. Thank you for the challenging situation. Because everything ultimately, for a devotee who is surrendered, who is trying their best to practice Krishna consciousness, everything ultimately is only auspicious. That's the point. And even if it seems like a challenging situation, we should understand that the mercy is there. That as challenging as the situation is, it is literally just a small fragment of what we should actually have to go through. And in that way, we will always grow. So in summary, don't worry if you don't always consciously realize that the process is working. But study and hear so you will understand through the eyes of Shastra that it is working. And in that way, more and more, as the heart becomes purified, more direct realizations will be available. Did that answer your question, Raj?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. I saw Namrata and then Sukavaha. So Namrata, Mataji, what is your question, please?
Accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Glories to Guru Maharaj. My question is a very common question, but I'm asking you with realization in it. So the question is, how do we connect more with the holy name? And the realization here is sometimes it happens that we try and endeavor and try to control our mind and concentrate more on the holy name. For few days we happen to do that, but then absorption is missing. Then we try and endeavor for the absorption. Maybe, rarely it happened that I got really absorbed, but that is not consistent. So how do we understand this? Because we do understand, of course there is progress than what I have been doing previously with the holy names, but I feel that the endeavor is missing, or what is going wrong when when it feels that okay, now I can concentrate again. After some days it happens that mind again runs around and we pull it back purposely and concentrate it. So how, I just want to I just want you to elaborate a little on this.
Sure. There's three things I would like to say in response to your question. Number one, don't endeavor for absorption, endeavor for service. And then the absorption will automatically come. That's the point number one. Point number two, in order to improve our chanting, we should understand that the holy name is a person, and we should try to chant as if we're dealing with the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. Okay, that's number two. Actually, there's four things. Number three is that we should make sure that we're not committing any offenses, because that can block our ability to connect with the holy name. And the last one is that Krishna consciousness is personal. Because the holy name is Krishna, it's non-different from Krishna. Everyone has a personal relationship with the holy name. So you should also try different things and see what allows you to chant better. Some devotees, for example, my wife, they like to do prayers before they chant. For someone else, they prefer to, or they find that they chant better rounds when they read something about the holy name before they start chanting. Right? For someone else, they may do a prayer to Haridas Thakur, or hear something in a class before they about the chanting before they chant. So you have to experiment and be conscious. So when I did the prayers, what happened? What's the chanting like? One thing. Okay. Another time, maybe I read something on the holy name before I started chanting. What was the effect? Was that better? Did that help me to be more absorbed and more focused? Right. So you try different things and you see what works more strongly for you to be more focused and attentive in your chanting. But bear in mind that the mind is what? Chanchala hi mana Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna and Arjuna are speaking, and the point comes up that the mind is very difficult to control. So sometimes as devotees, we need to do many different things to improve our chanting. And sometimes we may do one thing for a while, and then when the mind gets used to it and says, no, I'm not going to cooperate anymore, then we change to something else to keep the mind focused and absorbed. Okay, so these are the four things I'd like you to understand. Number one, don't focus on absorption, focus on service. Number two, Treat the holy name as if you're treating the supreme personality of God himself. So, for example, if Krishna appeared in front of you, then you'd be fully attentive. So that means if we understand that Krishna is not different from the holy name, we should be fully attentive with the holy name because Krishna is that holy name. So that's number 2. Number 3, we want to try different things to see what particularly helps us, because because we're personalists, what for our nature, what for our mind particularly helps it to be absorbed and focused on the holy name. And then there was a 4th one. Actually, what was the 4th point I was making? Does anyone remember the 4th point?
Offenses.
Sorry?
No,
Yes.
avoid offense.
Yeah, and the 4th is to avoid the offenses, because then even if we're trying so many things, but if we have if we're making offenses, then Krishna, in the form of his holy name, he will withdraw his mercy. Okay, so 3 things to do, 1 thing to avoid, and in that way, guaranteed over time. That's along with patience. Over time, there's a guarantee that our chanting will improve. And actually, one more thing I'll say, this is inspired from the heart. The one last thing I'll say, do it in a joyful and fun way. Don't take it to be something which is stressful. Take it to be a joyful relationship with the supreme personality of Godhead in the form of his holy name. I see many devotees in spiritual life, they make it a stressful endeavor for no good reason. But Krishna says, Sushukam Kartamavyayam. This devotional service is joyfully performed, Shushukam. He says that in the Bhagavad Gita. So now with a joyful heart, an inspired heart, a sincere heart, a heart full of hope and faith, now practice this chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and make it personal for you. Make it personal.
Okay, for one point you said that we should try different things to try on our personal level, some might like to offer prayers, some might like to read before chanting.
Yes.
So can it happen that it can fluctuate? For some days you do reading, some days you do hearing, some days you pray.
Yes,
So,
whatever works. You could try different things, but it doesn't have to. The fluctuating is the wrong word, because the mind is a bit difficult to control. Sometimes you have to take different approaches to keep the mind engaged. You see? So that's the point, because the mind is like a child. It's like a rebellious child. So sometimes you have to keep the child engaged by giving it one toy, and then when it gets bored of that toy, you give it another toy, a different toy, or you give it another activity to do, so that the child keeps moving in the direction that you want him to go into.
Yeah, exactly. I think this was a good example. So is it fine that we, keep changing the moods a little to, get better in our holy name?
Yes, it's okay. So the point is that you're not changing it for the sake of changing it. You're changing it if and when you need to get the effect. You see? So for example, it's not that you have to do something different every single day. You do something different when you find that you need to do something different to keep the mind focused on the chanting. So what may happen in reality is it may be even a month or 2, you just find by prayer, that's good. And after 2 or 3 months, you may find that now the mind is not really staying focused when I do just prayer. So now after 2 or 3 months, I'm going to do a little bit of reading before I chant, right? In fact, and then the mind immediately now goes back up. And remember, after a while, the mind is becoming purified. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So as you progress, the mind will be naturally controlled. You see? Because this is all cleaning. And the more the mind is clean, the more the mind is purified, the more the mind is under your control. Right? That's the point. So don't think it's forever, but it's something to engage and harness the mind so that it can become purified. And when it's purified, then the mind will just go along with you want to chant, a purified mind will just, move along exactly with the chanting, easily.
Okay. I think this was a good clarification. Thank you. Because I was thinking that, if I keep changing, the way of approaching, then it was just my thought that I would not be fixed in doing the japas. But I think, as you told, it can work. Yeah.
And you're only changing to the extent that it helps you to be focused in your chanting. So we're not changing for the sake of changing. We only change if it's helping. If we find that, okay, by making this change, my chanting is better, okay, that's okay. You see? But if I find I'm making a change and there's no difference, then don't just change for the sake of it. Okay?
Yeah.
And the focus is the chanting. It's what supports my chanting. It's not changing for the sake of it. It's only, okay, I may do some prayer because it helps my chanting.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. That helps very much.
Okay,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sukava Hamataji, you have a question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, and all glories to you, Guru Maharaj. Prabhuji, the question is in connection with the explanation you gave to Raj Prabhu.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that everything, whatever happens in the life of devotee, we should accept it as Krishna's mercy. That is clear. That's fine. But how should we react? I mean, sometimes it is too difficult, like a king. It is too difficult to bear that particular time. We understand it later on that it was mercy. So how do you take it in your life, day-to-day life?
Yeah. So the first thing is how you see everything depends on how you've already prepared your mind. You see? So if we've been accustomed to hearing and reading and discussing generally, then if anything happens, you already have the mentality to see it in a Krishna conscious way. The difficulty is that in many cases, we don't do these things deeply. And therefore, when something happens, we don't already have the mentality prepared, which allows us to see the situation in a positive and empowering way. Now, how we respond in a specific situation requires some intelligence. Okay? The point is very simple. We look at Guru, we look at Sadhu, we look at Shastra, and that helps us to decide how to respond. A very simple idea. How would my spiritual master like me to respond in this situation? And if we're not sure, then we can always ask our spiritual master or ask our God family, especially more mature members of our God family, this is a situation. I'm not sure what to do or how to respond. What would you recommend or suggest? And this is given by Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Instruction because it is one of the 6 loving exchanges. Yeah, that's the point. So we do not depend on our own intelligence only. We do spiritualize and offer our intelligence by using it in Krishna service, but because we have so many devotees in our movement who can give good advice and guidance, we should take full advantage of that. So depending on the situation, sometimes you'll know what to do easily. It'll be obvious. Other times where it's a bit more complex and you're not sure, then you may have some idea based upon Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, but also speak to others. Others that you trust, others who are more advanced, and get their guidance. This is a specific situation. What do you think would be a wise way to respond? Yeah, that's the point. And in that way, you never go wrong.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for just making it clear to respond rather than react. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Okay. Do we have anyone else? Shuddha, I saw your hand has gone up.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Yeah, thank you for the wonderful class, Prabhuji. Every point I can meditate, really. It's very instructive. So my question is about hearing. I personally experience this constant hearing, right? So when constant hearing, we can see that change. But for me, it's kind of reverse. When I try to hear constantly, let's say 2 lectures, I feel like I'm also learning, gaining, but I feel very also stressed out. So what do you suggest, Prabhuji? I personally feel okay, should I listen just 1 lecture and contemplate and try to dig into more details and try to understand and apply, or just hear more and more lectures?
So first of all, if you're stressed out, we should remember it's something about the way that we're perceiving the situation. It's not the situation itself. So it's important for us to take full responsibility for the way that we tend to respond. It's a pattern within us. That's the first point. The second, you can see what works best for you. Do you feel more inspired if you listen to one class and go very deep? Fine, then do that. If you find it's more inspiring that you listen to 2 classes in a row, then you can do that. Yeah, there's no hard and fast rules in that point, but the point is that we want to regularly hear and be inspired and to feel nourished in the classes so that we can be enthusiastic in our Krishna conscious practice.
Okay, Guruji. So yeah, honestly, I feel more inspired like when I listen to Guru Maharaj lecture, and just I like to dig in more, like read about the related purports from Srimad Bhagavatam and try to understand.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really helping me. So I also have that other feeling like, okay, am I missing something if I don't listen other lectures like
No,
that?
you listen to lectures anyway. You can listen to other lectures. It's a question of when you're going to listen. Because when you listen to one class and you go deep, then the next day you listen to another class and go deep. So the lectures aren't going anywhere. You don't need to worry about that. But the way that you take in the spiritual knowledge, you should do it in a way that strengthens you and inspires you. It's not, again, going back to what we said earlier, Krishna consciousness is personal. So it's not that there's one size fits all. Yeah. You have to see what will work for you according to your situation, time, place, circumstance, personality. Then things work very nicely.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. I'll take that advice. Yeah, I have one more question, if it's okay, if I can ask. As you mentioned, like fallen souls, they are more qualified to get Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. But
If they consider themselves fallen and therefore are humble. Yeah, it's not just because they're fallen, just that's not enough. But we have to feel ourselves in that fallen state, then we can really get the most.
Okay, but other side, like if you think like material point of view, like we also see like sometimes like our confidence level is very low. Due to that, also we feel like very unqualified, very fallen things. So how to get over that? Because sometimes if you think too much like you're fallen, it also leads to depression, right? So
humility is not the same. There's a difference. Some people, when the scriptures talk about how a devotee feels themselves to be fallen, it's not that they're meditating just on themselves. They have 2 meditations. They think, I'm insignificant, but Krishna loves me. So if I make the endeavor to be Krishna conscious, it's just like a child. The child knows I can't do all the things that mom and dad can do. But the child's confidence is, but mom and dad love me. So if I approach mom and dad, they will pick me up. They will feed me. They'll care for me. They'll give me shelter. They'll give me love. They'll give me affection. So the child is active because of 2 things. The child is active. I need mom and dad's help because I'm not capable by myself. And mom and dad love me. That's even more important. So it's I'm dependent. I can't do everything by myself, but mom and dad love me and they're going to help me if I approach them. So therefore, the child has a mood of confidence and hope. Where it becomes low self-esteem is where we don't consider Krishna's love and we just think, I can't do it by myself. Then the person feels down. You see?
yes.
So when we feel down, it means that I'm only considering my own lack, but I'm not considering Krishna's willingness to help. Yep. When we remember both things, I can't do it by myself, so I'm going to take shelter. And Krishna loves me, so I'm going to take shelter. Yeah. That kind of meditation makes one confident because my parents can give it to me. My parents can help me. My parents can solve the issue. My parents love me. My parents want to help me. So we have that mood towards Krishna as well. So when we have a sense that I can't do it by myself and I'm loved and Krishna's willing to help me, then we feel very confident, very enthusiastic and very positive. And if we're feeling down, then it means that we're forgetting about Krishna's love and Krishna's willingness to help. And we're only thinking about the fact that we're not able to do everything by our own strength. that's what will cause the sense of feeling down or lack of confidence.
Okay, beautiful, Prabhuji. So whenever we get that feeling, so we should also meditate like Krishna's love is there, like we can.
Yeah, he wants you. Krishna wants his living entities to go back to Godhead more than we want to go back. Yeah. So what we can do is we can meditate. We have to remember more about Krishna, Krishna's love, Krishna's willingness to help, Krishna's willingness to give mercy, Krishna's willingness to raise us. If we meditate more and more on Krishna's willingness to help and less on ourselves, then we will naturally make great progress.
Oh, very nice, Prabhuji. Definitely, I'll try to apply that. Yeah. And also, like, I personally noticed with me regarding chanting, when I'm very disturbed, for me, chanting is very difficult, but I have a taste for reading. I mean, the moment I just sit and read, I see like my consciousness immediately, like, sets up. But the taste for chanting is, I still chant, but it's more mechanical. But my reading and my listening, I have a lot of taste for that. So eventually you think, Prabhuji, if I practice this, the taste for chanting will also come?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, the reading will help to stop the chanting being mechanical. What stops an activity being mechanical is having a full appreciation and full knowledge for what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what the result will be when it's done properly. You'll see, if you study your own life, any area that you have full knowledge and it's something that's valuable, you don't do it mechanically. Yeah. When we do anything mechanically, it's usually due to a lack of full appreciation of the benefit. Just like if I give you a diamond and you don't know it's a diamond, you have no knowledge, then you can leave it aside. But if I give you a diamond and then I give you knowledge of it, I say it's a diamond. It's 24 karat gold diamond. It's worth 50 million pounds. It came from the royal family. It's first class. It's a special size. It's a very rare green diamond. If I start giving you all the knowledge about it, then you understand, oh my God, this is very valuable. I need to be careful. I need to look after it carefully. I should put it in the safe. I should make sure that we get it insured. Suddenly the way you deal with it is different. It's no longer mechanical. Now you'll be very conscious to be careful about it. But why? It's because you have knowledge and appreciation of how valuable it is. So the more that we have knowledge and appreciation of how valuable Krishna consciousness is and the holy name is, then that will remove the tendency for mechanical chanting.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful, Prabhuji. Yeah. Thank you so much for your advice. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I saw Mother Srimati.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for a wonderful class and nice tips on chanting and hearing and everything. So, Prabhuji, I just want to ask you, can you give any suggestions, as Gaur Purnima is tomorrow here in USA and for you all in Friday? So I just want to meditate on what can I improve, or so we do some resolutions or we take some vows on Gaur Purnima to do something extra in our sadhana. So I just want to know your suggestions about that.
Yeah, so for us as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Gaur Purnima is the beginning of our new year, actually. Yeah. And so even in the external world, people do New Year's resolutions. But oftentimes in New Year's resolutions, they don't follow through on them for various reasons. What I advise is that on Gaur Purnima, before Gaur Purnima actually, you think of something that you think is particularly useful that will help you. Again, personal. It's not the same thing for everyone. There's some things which are similar for everyone. For example, on Gaur Purnima, it's good to hear about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his pastimes, his teachings on Gaur Purnima, because we remember that person, and it's good to pray to him on that day, especially because his mercy is more available on that day. But if we're going to do a specific commitment, then it should be something that you see is going to help you. It could help you to go above and beyond your foundations, or it could be something that you think is important to make your foundation strong in Krishna consciousness, right? So, for example, if there are some things that we're doing which are foundational, like hearing, chanting, associating, and they're not strong, or we don't feel they're sufficiently consistent, then the vow could be to strengthen that, to make it consistent, to make it deeper or stronger. Because it's just like a house. The first thing in the house is not the furniture. The first thing is the foundations. If the foundations aren't strong, then putting furniture in the house where the foundations aren't strong, it's the wrong priority, you see? So if the foundations are strong, then you think, what's the next most important thing to put in the house? But if it's like that. And if the foundations are not strong, then I would recommend the commitment is something that's going to strengthen the foundation. And if the foundation is strong, then it's something that will enhance the beauty of the house and make it even more attractive for its owner, you know? And if you're not sure, feel free to discuss it with your friends, with your peers, share ideas. I'm thinking to do this. What do you think? Oh, I think that for you, Srimati, maybe this will be a better thing to focus on, you know, as a commitment or something to practice. And then the last thing I'll say is whatever you decide, start putting that into practice on the day of Gaurapanim. So if, for example, you're going to focus more on chanting, then on the day of Gaurapanim, give some time on that day to make sure that that extra focus on chanting is there. If it's going to be that I'm going to read more from now on, then on the day of Gaurapanim, make sure you read more on that special day. So start on that day. Don't wait till afterwards. Start on that day. Start the journey as you're going along. And then one other thing you could think about is to get support from those devotees who you have a relationship with to help you. So you may share what you're going to do so that they can check in with you and say, how's it going? You said you were going to do this from Gaurapanim. How's it going? They can lovingly encourage you to make sure you keep moving in that direction.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah, that really helps. Thank you so much. So I'm planning on reading more and attentive chanting. So I'll start from tomorrow, especially on the day. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, so are there any other questions before we end? Okay, so thank you so much. I'm going to take your leave. It was really wonderful being able to share something with all of you. And yeah, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Neem ki jai, Janitai Gaur Premanandi, His Holiness Guru Maharaj ki jai, Janitai Gaur Premanandi.